We have stepped up our game. We have brand new things, new quest style mechanics, and a far more beautiful zone than we had at the start of the War Within. Thank God. Let's go deep into the hole to the Ringing Deeps. Oh, I'm so happy, ladies and gentlemen. This zone is infinitely better than the first Isle of Dawn zone, where I was very disappointed in the lackluster things that were in there. I do want to point out, people were like, hey, Blizzard said they're going to add more clutter and NPCs. That's fine. It's not going to bring any change of geography, or anything to that zone that makes it an inspiring visual place to be. But the Ringing Deeps doesn't need that, even though it probably will get some of that because it is awesome. It is so good. What is the Ringing Deeps? The hole, the tunnel, the dwarves, the earthen have dug down into the earth was blocked by the Nerubians. In the first zone, we emptied that hole, we've made the tunnel open again, and now we're down there, and these guys have been trapped. They've been trapped down here, they've been digging, they dug too far and they dug too deep, at least. That is probably where we're going. And they need help. They haven't heard from the surface in a while. They've just been abandoned down to their own things, and things have gone haywire without any of the support of the surface dwellers. So they want help, and they've lost faith in their leadership because they were just left and abandoned. What the hell happened? And you're like, dude, the Nerubians were blocking it up and blah, 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 blah. And now you're down here to help. So the initial thing is you arrive at their base camp and it's all gone haywire. The machines are running wild. There's manipulation going on. There's void stuff happening, all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to spoil too much of the story, but that's the general idea, is you are down in the Ringing Deeps. And the way it's specced out is it looks like they dug and dug and dug and dug and dug. They did diggy diggy hole until they uncovered an enormous cavern that was deep below the surface. I can't really stress to you how deep we are. Once you actually enter the coreway, which is what they've actually dug from the Isle of Dawn down to the Ringing Deeps, it's massive. It takes a good 30 seconds going full speed dragonflight to get to this depth. And then you're into this massive cavern. Now, the good idea with the massive cavern is that it's more like a jungle. It's huge. And I can't stress to you how enormous this zone is. It's massive. Absolutely massive. Like, it takes several minutes of going full speed dragonflight to get from the north to the south of this place. It's huge. And that allows for a lot of variety. Huge amount of variety. There's a lot of species that live down here, and I hope this gets weirder. I keep coming back, like I did in my first video, to Kong Skull Island. Not a great movie, but they really went over the top there with the kind of creatures that exist that have been left for thousands of years to evolve in their own way, and I really want to see them advance on that when we go even deeper, which is what is going to happen. Remember, the War Within is about digging basically down to the core of Azeroth, and that's what we're doing. We're going deeper and deeper and deeper. What weird and wonderful things await us down there. The best thing about this zone is not only the atmosphere and the style of it and the variety, but the fact that they finally started turning up their quest variety. Because, like I pointed out in the first zone, there's like just 5 different types of quests that just repeat. And, you know, that's like a couple of 100 quests that are just basically the same thing over and over again. Kill 8, pick up 10 things, whatever. In this one, tons of variety. Lots of scenarios, which were completely absent and may be added to the first zone. Again, I'm not dead set. Fully open over the course of the alpha to see them develop and change and return to the Isle of Dawn with new things. But this one has a lot of that present. It has a lot of scenarios, and they're already pulling from Dragonflight here with like the jumping puzzles that you did. That's back in here, but it's done in just a scenario way instead of being just like an over cumbersome style of doing things. You might have to help out Granny, for example, and Granny wants you to do all these scenarios and relive the memories of what happened with the kobolds, because we're going to try and truce with the kobolds. We need their help. We want them to join forces with us. We're not here to hurt them, and, you know, maybe they're overrun by the Candle King and things like that. So we'll find out the history of what happened with the kobolds. Good stuff. Way better than the dwarfy earthen lore that we've been getting so far, and mixing in with that. A lot of emotional storytelling down here as well, which is exactly what I want to see. But again, that quest variety. We have Pipe Dream now. Very similar to the Nazjatar quest lines. Some people are already begging for an add-on to solve these things. I will say some of them are very awkward. There was one, certainly one that I did that took me about 2 minutes to do. I was like, this is not obvious. It seemingly only has one solution. In fact, it didn't have one solution. I solved it in several different ways, and it just wouldn't solve unless I did it in a very particular way, which was very frustrating. So I did bug report it. If I've solved it visually, it should solve, but it did not solve. whatever. But you're going to be sliding tiles around to do Pipe Dream. If you play Bioshock and you know about the hacking mechanic, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the same thing. That's all introduced here and coming back into it. So much happy with this. So much happy. The only thing I was missing here was potentially like stumbling upon some sort of like bizarre crystal thing, which might actually be more towards the core of the planet as we get there. I didn't find one mega feature that was like, whoa, that's weird. Like, there's also, I tell you what, this is what somebody was pointing out by my audience when we played here, is this feels a bit like Subnautica. Is that as you go deeper and deeper, the weirder and weirder things are going to get. And I think that is what's going to happen. You can see down into the Nerubian zone, but it kicks you out. And we've had a quick look at the next zone, which is called the Hallow. Something like that, Hallow Zone. But again, it won't let us have a look, but it looks like it just keeps getting stranger and stranger. And this is such a wonderful, wonderful step into that. As everything we kind of predicted with the Isle of Dawn, as it starts plain Jane, very rudimentary, and then deeper we go, the weirder and weirder things start getting. And that's indicated here. One thing I particularly love about this zone is just the amount of side content going on here, because a lot of factions and things have split off into different areas of this cavern because it's so big and doing very different things. What have these creatures been up to? What have the wildlife been up to? Have they been manipulated? And now the voids here. The voids, you know, we've got xal'atath's influences down here as well. And we've also, again, got the kobold factions. They're up to different things. First introduction of daily quests was down here. Only one in so far, along with the new icon, which doesn't stand out as much to me as the old one did. But I'm sure it's one of those things you'll just get used to. It just looks a little stuck on, like just a PNG that's stuck on there. But it's something that'll change over time. I had a blast in this zone. I out-leveled this. They cut our experience off at 74. I think you could get to 76 here very, very easily. It's so big. It's so rich. It's so interesting. And overall, my opinion is I'm so much happier that this is the kind of zone we're getting. Because the Isle of Dawn was very disappointing to me. And it's like, okay, now I'm starting to see what you're putting together, Blizzard. And it also intrigues me as to what comes next. Again, we are looking at the World Soul Saga, which is going to continue over time. So they can afford to be a little bit slower with the pace rather than this is a one and done thing. That I really hope that over the World Soul Saga, we are returning to these zones. Now they've got this, 6-year plan. There's no reason that the Ringing Deeps and the Isle of Dawn, etc., and the Nerubian Empire can't be things that actually play a role, not just in Midnight, but in the Titan expansion to follow, right? And I want that to be a thing. I desperately want that to be a thing. And this feels like it could be a thing. So there you go. The Ringing Deeps, guys. Wonderful experiment. Wonderful place. Liked it a lot.